Okay, so this is our second video homework assignment if everything is going well. And this would be your homework assignment for Tuesday, September 24th. And I thought today I would look at the textbook that the county says is a good resource for this particular lesson. This is out of those big blue books, the Glencoe books. And a lot of times they do present some good things, especially real world issues, like when you would actually use this possibly in math class. So let's just go through a little bit of this and then we'll solve some problems and see where we end up. So we're looking at converting between fractions and decimals back to fractions. And we're doing this in preparation for working with positive and negative rational numbers. And those rational numbers include all the integers we worked with last week, and then also fractions and decimals. So this says, when am I ever going to use this? Which is one of the biggest questions that teachers get asked in math classes. And I think I've mentioned this in math class, but I would say that 7th grade math actually has a lot of math almost everyone will use for the rest of their lives, especially this kind of math. This math, especially when we get to percents, deals with consumer math and ways not to get ripped off, not to get cheated financially. And since all of us are going to be dealing with money in some way for all of our lives, this is really important math. So this is about softball. The United States women's softball team won the gold medal in the 2000 Summer Olympic Games. The table shows the results of the games they played in Sydney, Australia. The number of runs scored by the United States is listed first. And I would just say as an aside, this is how old this textbook is, because softball isn't even an Olympic sport anymore. But anyway, how many games did the USA softball team win, and how many did they play? And then the second question says, write a fraction comparing the number of times the team won to the total number of games played. Now I know with word problems, a lot of times we get confused with all the words in the word problem. So we read through it, we read both the questions. Those are good practices for both math and language arts. Now let's go back and find out exactly what we're looking for. First of all, let's go down to here. The table shows the results of the games they played in Sydney, Australia. The number of runs scored by the United States is listed first. So this is always, it's not showing up very well in there. The first number is how many runs we scored, that the United States scored. So the question is, how many games did the USA softball team win? So in order to find that out, we have to look at each game and see if the first number is the biggest number. And this goes back to ordering integers, which we just learned last week. We're figuring out if this is bigger or this is bigger. And ordering these integers is pretty easy because we don't have any negative runs scored. So did they win this one? Yep. They won. They won. They won. Uh-oh, this one they lost. They lost. They lost. They won. And they won. So let's count how many they won. They won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They won 7. And they played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And you'll notice I wrote that as a fraction. Later in the year, we're going to be talking about ratios and proportions, and fractions are going to come back because ratios and proportions use fractions. This is a ratio and a fraction, just to throw that out there. This one says, write a fraction comparing the number of times the team won, so I put that on the top, the number of times they won, to the total number of games they played, and we have the 10 on the bottom. All right, I believe that we're going to have some more discussion about this as we go down the page. As soon as I figure out how to go down the page. Okay. So it says the softball team won 7/10 of the games they played. So we got that one right. This was right. When the denominator is a power of 10, you can use place value to write the fraction as a decimal. So we have 7/10, and that's how you would say that, 7/10. And this goes back to elementary school some, But in middle school math now, with the new Common Core standards, they're really into you representing numbers in other ways, in pictures and graphs and, you know, all that kind of stuff that you really did in elementary school. So here's 7/10, here's the fraction, and there's the decimal. And again, like in last night's video, if you actually say 7/10 instead of 0.7, it lends itself really easy to figuring out that the fraction is 7/10. If the denominator is not a power of 10, you can write the fraction as a decimal using division. And we worked on this some yesterday, in our homework yesterday. But it can't hurt to review, and this will give you another place to go back and look if you're still not quite getting it. All right, so it says write each fraction or mixed number. Now, we did not cover mixed numbers in last night's video, so this will be good, as a decimal. So here's the fraction 1/4. And some of you may already know the equivalent decimal to this. That's one of the handful to 10 that are good to remember I talked about in last night's homework. The fraction 1/4 indicates 1 divided by 4. Method 1 says use paper and pencil, and that's really hard to see. But this is 1 divided by 4, and we talked about that in last night's video. That you have to make sure you write it the right way. 4 will not go into 1, so I'm going to have to use a terminal 0. 4 will go into 10, 2 times, I need to put my decimal up there. 2 times 4 is 8, I subtract. I'm going to need another terminal 0. 4 will go into 20 5 times, 5 times 4 is 20, and we're all done. And that's what they wrote over here, I just wanted you to be able to see it more clearly. And this little sign is important, some of you forget this, division ends when the remainder is 0. Or you could use a calculator, which Union County and the state and the country says not yet. All right, so let's go over here. This is 5 3/4, and if you remember from yesterday's video, you already know the decimal equivalent of 3/4. And again, this is one you should have memorized. 25 hundredths, or 0.25. It's a quarter, right? 4 quarters and a dollar. All right, use paper and pencil. So we have 5 3/4 is equal to 5 plus 3/4. And then if you remember the decimal, you know it's 5 plus 75 hundredths, and you can just go down here and write it. If you don't remember how to find out the decimal equivalent of 3/4, you would do it like this. And I'm not going to do the whole thing because we did it last night. You would use terminal zeros and do your division. All right, let's continue and see what's next. These videos aren't supposed to be that long, so I don't want to take too much of your time. Okay. Oh, that's not what we want to do. That's your whisk. There's crazy stuff going on here. Hold on just a second. We did.